pledge, and I'll say the bless. If you would, please stand.
Attention, salute, pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for all that you do for us each and every day. Lord, just ask you to be with each and every person here and the families they represent. Lord, we also lift up the people in the states where they're having weather issues or storms, and be with them as they recover. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Finance Committee meeting, our regular scheduled first Monday of the month. Going to our agenda, Mayor Davis. Mayor, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing I have other than a million budget amendments is your credit card report for the last month. The fire department used it 4 times, all good. Assessor used it 11 times, had 1 missing receipt, but they attached a memo. Sheriff's department used it 3 times, all good. Mayor used it 7 times, all good, and EMA used it 3 times, all good. All good for those new members is were the receipts attached, was the receipts signed, was the receipts detailed, and was it used locally? So if they answer all those questions right, I say all good usually. Any questions?
Any questions for the mayor on the credit card report? Seeing none, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
So, all right, going to budget amendments. Let's see, Judge Collins is going to be here. All right, first item on the budget amendments, we have amendment from the road department. She is increasing her expenses in 506 account 6500, decreasing expenses from wage line items. She basically has a bill to pay, and she's moved it from 189 other salaries and wages $1,500. Do I have a motion? To have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And you can see the receipts and the bill from local government right there that she's paying. Excuse me. Next one, adult.
Alan, the next 2 are just math corrections. You approved them last time, but I can't post them.
So we just need to adopt the corrections.
Yes.
Do I have a motion to adopt the corrections? I have a motion from Commissioner Mason. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0 on the corrections. That's the next 2 amendments. So that takes us to adult drug court, 30,500. This is one that we rolled last month. And from what I understand, she is paying the Park Ridge bill, the treatment plan, and this is the amount she needs in order to pay that bill. Obviously, if we approve both this amendment and the amendment coming from probations, we'll overdraw. So my recommendation to this committee, your pleasure, is to approve the 30,000. You got to pay your bill, and then whatever the remainder balance is that you have for that account, we can give that to probations. You'll see here in a second that they have an insurance recovery of $5,000, so that'll give them the $5,000 plus whatever the balance is between what Renee has for, and then the rest of the money that you need for your lawnmower will come out of 189. Sorry? Please. Oh, there's no mic? Please.
First of all, I try to pride myself on the fact that I'm a big picture kind of guy. What I've handed out to you is the statute that back in 2004, I've got our legislators to change the statute for this DUI fund to include paying a probation officer out of that DUI fund, both for their salaries and their benefits. Anybody that supervised DUI cases and/or drug testing. If you'll read that statute, it's pretty clear. It even has misdemeanor probation wording in it. My issue with the drug court accessing this fund, as I've stated before, is I'm a county program. Drug court is a state program. The money that goes into this DUI fund are county offenders. The first $100 of every DUI case goes into this county fund. So basically, you got a drug court program that can sit back and do nothing, have no skin in the game, while we collect the money for DUI first, second, and third offenders, and then come up here in September and October and say, not just give me a portion of it, but for the last 4 years, they've tried to take all of it. I have a huge issue with that. I'm very irritated by it. I know we asked the county attorney to make a ruling, and she did. I would suggest to you and submit to you it's a conflict of interest for her to make that ruling. Her husband is over the drug court. I have a problem with that. In addition to that, they've got 40, maybe 50 offenders. I have 2,000 offenders. So just do the math on that. In addition to that, theirs is a 4-county program. Mine's a 1-county program. My question, I think, should be asked is, which county offenders is she paying for? Because we should only be paying for Bradley County offenders if she is able to access that money. We should not be paying for McMinn, Polk, Monroe County offenders. She can also go to those other 3 counties and ask for that same money out of the DUI fund. Every county has that DUI fund. I have a problem with us paying money that was spent in 21, 22, and we're in the 22, 23 year. To me, help me see the perspective. I think it's a government buyout. So I can take money of no money I've collected, use richest people that have collected that money, and then come and ask for the money because I've overspent my budget. I think all of you would know if I overspent my budget, what my boss would do. She's overspent, so we're going to reward her for overspending. I have an issue with that. In addition to that, you know, when they have sanctions in the drug court and they want people to do community service, you know where they send them? To my office. So you're using my personnel, my equipment. So would I be wrong if I said, hey, we're not going to do that? We're not going to do that. You have to find community service elsewhere. When they want drug testing in mass, they come to my office and ask my officers to do the drug test. Now, they pay them, but would I be wrong to say we're not going to do that? I think it's greedy and insensitive. There's $33,000 in that fund. She asked for 30. That's almost all of it. 4 years ago, they came before this committee and asked for all of it and got all of it. I've tried to let it build up. I've tried to only ask for what I needed, not all of it. I just think that's greedy. So I'm asking you all to deny her request. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's ethical. I don't think it's moral that she takes from something that she has no skin in the game whatsoever. So she can sit back for a whole year, wait for us to collect it, and then come up here and do a budget amendment and ask for all of it. You tell me how that's right.
Well, we'll get to a discussion. So, but have you finished your thoughts?
Yes.
So, you mentioned, I'll recognize myself for 1 second. I'll come to you, Commissioners, later. The money is you have right here in the legislation, or the law here says that you absolutely can pay, but that's not what your amendments are doing. You're moving the money into a line item, and then you're moving it into another line item to purchase it.
Correct.
So,
Because I could, initially, I could just leave that probation officer's position vacant.
oh, 1 second. Then your personnel, they are budgeted. They have the money in the line.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is in the past, I have paid a whole salary out of that line item. I've not done that in the past, letting the fund build up, but they keep taking from the fund. When I first found that fund available, it had over $100,000 in there. And I was the only one accessing it, so I was letting it build up. I mean, I could present my budget and leave 30,000 out of there in hopes that there's 30,000 in that line item, and then say, oh, I want to take all 30 of it and put it in for a DUI officer.
Well, there's a bigger quote unquote issue as far as I'm concerned with respect to this. This is how many years we've had to deal with this. You got two different departments, for the better lack of the word, that have access to a reserve account, and right about fall of every year we have to go through this. So after we deal with these amendments, I'm going to make a recommendation to this committee and to the full commission that from here on out, when you figure out the amount, what is it, August, when you close the books and you have a balance, it's 50-50 from here on out. Whatever, if it's $1,000, you get 500, then they get 5. If 30,000, you get
Again,
15,000.
You're talking about a county program versus a state program.
But they are allowed to. If that
Just
needs,
because you can, don't mean you should.
Rich, I get that concept, but they have a right to it just like you do. That it's a countywide, I mean, if we need to talk to our legislative bodies to change it so that only the counties get it, then that's something we need to deal with the legislative bodies and change and amend that. But right now, they have a right to it. And their expectation is that they're going to get some.
They have a right to it based on what county attorney has said.
Right, and I'm not going to get into the
respect- I'm
conflict
gonna
of interest. I mean, she
respectfully
is the
ask,
county attorney.
Once Adam Lowe gets elected, that we get an attorney general's opinion on it.
I understand. And we'll talk to him when that happens. Commissioner Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This $30,500, do we know that that is all being spent on Bradley County citizens, or is it in part of other counties? Do we know? Okay, thank you.
Anybody else on that? Have you seen the bill from Park Ridge, right? And it is 30,500.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
So why would we have bills outstanding from 2021?
go ahead.
We were told that there was some people on there that were being double billed for, and the previous person that was
Yes.
over this grant was working with Park Ridge to get those bills taken care of. And
So there was
She's-
a dispute on the
there's
bill.
a dispute on the bill, so she's trying to get everything caught up to current.
And some of that's neither here nor there. She inherited some of that.
Yeah,
Right?
she inherited most of it.
Mayor?
Everything Rich said's correct, and, this has always been a problem. It's always been a problem on the bill side too, Commissioner Slater. But that's not a department. Like he said, if that was him, it wouldn't continue to happen. But it continued to happen with the predecessor, and now the excuse is cleaning it up from last year. In essence, they wait till it accumulates enough to clean it up. And I wish I hadn't used the word conflict, because just because an attorney says it's legal to do something, his argument is it's not right to give it to the district whenever a county department has equal right to it also. But we did set a precedent, you all set a precedent a few years back, giving them half of it and so forth, but then it's gotten to where that they continue to ask for all of it. And you can blame it on predecessor if you want to. None of that's going to change as long as you continue to reward the people that are doing this.
Commissioner Alford? No.
Table this again, 'cause it's got me totally confused as to what's going on here. I can read this and I can read and hear Mr. Rich. I think there's a real problem there. I don't think we need to, first of all, I'd like to find out if we're paying for out-of-county people with our money out of the county. That's one thing I'd like to find out, and maybe Renee can look into it and find out somehow or another, but I can't see us paying money to other counties for their drug bills when it's dealing with strictly Bradley County. So I think we need to put this on hold for a while and let's investigate it a little bit. I know the people's want to get paid, but I don't like paying money to something that we're not really getting. And I really have a problem with holding these bills until they accumulate up high enough that, you know, they want to do it all at once.
Renee, the other counties that collected, and you may know this, Rich, the other counties that collected the same fee through their courts, do they send it to us or do?
We get, one of the reserve accounts that we've already done for her, we just fix an iPhone. McMinn and Meg's send us their money, so she does have that and use that to pay these bills.
So the other counties are sending us
They
money
are sending us money.
for their people.
But it's drug court money, it's not DUI fund money. There's a different fund.
Right. So I'm speaking of DUI money. Are they sending that?
They just send us a lump sum. I can check with those counties to see if they're using this.
They can't send the DUI fund, it has to go into the individual counties. Polk County has their own DUI fund, Monroe County has their own DUI fund, McMinn County has their own DUI fund.
So,
They've not accessed that in other counties.
so if Polk County has a DUI and Meigs has a DUI, the all counties have a
Every county
DUI,
has a DUI
then they can send the money to, because all her accounting, all her bills and expenses are done out of this budget. So we
But
do
it's-
it,
It's drug court money, there's two different funds.
right, I get that it's two different funds. I'm talking about the DUI fund, the one that you and they're allowed to go to. We don't know whether or not DUI money comes from other counties. Is that a fair statement?
That is
All right, so we need to find that out so that, because if they are sending their DUI money, then their folks that are in the treatment program they're using their money. We're gonna find out.
Let's put this on hold until we find out a little more information about it.
Yeah, but, yeah, we'll,
Well, I can say
we'll-
at the time,
we'll-
I can tell you they're not getting the DUI fund money.
Rich, we'll find out.
Okay.
All right. But we can't wait another month because these bills need to be paid, that's for sure. So we'll roll it and we'll probably have to call a finance meeting just before, what is next week?
Just a comment.
Mayor?
You say these bills got to be paid. They go back to 21.
That's what I was getting ready to say.
So one more month's going to kill them, and the worst case scenario, they'll cut us off, and then they'll have to start living within their own budget.
That's correct.
They're supposed to live within the fees they collect from the various counties.
Good Lord. All right, we'll roll these. Renee, does that take us to page 11? All right. The amendment here from Community Services, increase in revenue, increases expenses, so it's money coming in of $5,000. This is the insurance recovery for the stolen lawnmower, all right? Yeah. Do I have a motion to accept them? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. Next budget amendment, also from Community Services, increase in revenue, increase in expenses, $600 going into $499. Money is needed to purchase the new equipment. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. Next amendment is Bradley County Mayor's Office, decrease in expenses, He's moving money in the same account from travel tuition of $200. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Next budget amendment, also from the mayor's office, moving money into 347 from other supplies in the same account. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Mason. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Next budget amendment, excuse me. He's also moving in the same account from $330 into pest control. Motion to accept the amendment. I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Continuing with the mayor's office, $355, and this one's going into a different account. He's coming from 34510 over to 51240, and also in the pest control, and you see that they got the balance there. Motion to accept the amendment. I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Mayor's office, $1,000, decreasing the reserve, and he's putting it in 335, maintenance and repair building. Archive building. Oh, this is over on, Church Street. Yeah.
You know, if I could, at budget time, we'll have it more right next year, but in the past, archives has only been the office down here. Now we're combining it with your archives building, and those things had never been paid out of the archives budget, so we're bringing money out of the archives reserve to pay them, and then next year they'll be in the right budget, even though you'll have to bring reserve money out to pay them.
Right. That balance there is a lot more than I anticipated. That's a good thing. 'Cause
Yeah.
188, so,
Yeah, we've
Well-
only, for the last year, all we spent out of it is some shelving money, because the maintenance had been covered with the courthouse budget, so now we're separating it, and we can pay all of those archives costs out of the archives reserve.
yeah, very
So-
good. 180,000. Very good. I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Next budget amendment, decrease in reserves. It's also from the mayor's office, and it's going into 499, and it's from a different account. Also the same thing, archive building and CH archives. CH archives.
Courthouse.
Courthouse.
Oh, downstairs. I'm sorry.
So moved.
Have a motion from Commissioner Winters. Have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Coming to,
Chairman.
please.
Just a question, this is on the archives building down there, Mayor, we got any other plans to use that building for anything other than archives? Or has anything ever been discussed about it?
No, there's no plans from me at least. We have started on the second floor. The clerk's office has started occupying some space down there. So ideally, it stays for long-term growth of archives, but that's up to you all, as long as everybody continues to understand it's unmanned archives. But over time, it will be needed, but no, there's no plans for those other offices, other than future growth.
And right now, it's the sheriff's office and the courts that are using it, right, primarily?
Yeah, the Chancery Court and now the Circuit Court clerk has started using it. Don't know if Register of Deeds has ever put anything down there or not, but it'll
Wow.
basically be those four.
Yeah, Commissioner Winters.
Have we thought about a sprinkler system in the archives building? It's an old building, but if there is some type of combustion, we could lose a lot of information.
That's
Might
true.
be something to look at.
Mhm. And we could probably use this fund to do that, although it probably fairly large building to do 2 floors, but we could look at it, yeah.
Yeah, so we thought about it. All right, do we vote on this?
Yeah, your 2-page,
We're at $19,627.
yes.
We're done?
No, you've not voted on that
Oh.
one yet.
We have a motion and a second.
No.
I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Next, budget amendments from the Register of Deeds, $2,000. And the same account, she's going from 336 to 599. And she gives her. She said you asked her to open up this or move this.
Wasn't a line item.
I guess the question was why wasn't in the budget request, but that's neither here nor there. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Marlon, before you go on, for the sake of the new one, Cindy, Tim, most of these amendments you've just been seeing here, we're still trying to get the auditors happy by putting them in appropriate lines. You say, why didn't you do that at budget time? They keep appearing because it was okay in the past, and then they started wanting them to be in the specific lines, so we're still doing a lot of that.
And also for the new members, when we meet with the auditors, that'll be an excellent question as to why they're making us do this, because it doesn't make any sense to go from a detailed line to a more vague line. I've said that a gazillion times, but when they get, maybe they'll answer us this year. Moving on. General Sessions Division 2, Judge Collins is here. He has an amendment here, and he is decreasing the fund balance, $9,862. You can see where he's putting the money in the respective lines, 162, 320, 355, 356, 435, 437. And you see his description there, plus he was wrote us a nice 2 or 3 letter right there. So I'm a go ahead and recognize you there, even though we don't have for a second right now. But
Sure.
please go
I'll
ahead.
be brief because I did write a long letter. I'm asking, obviously, for additional funds for an assistant salary. Came before the last iteration of this committee back in June of this year. Asked to raise the assistant salary to $42,500. At that time, I was not the elected yet. I had won the primary, but was waiting the general, so it was tabled at that time. At that time, regrettably, I take full ownership. I wanted to move all of my other line items to that budget, which did happen. So I basically had all my line items cut for tuition, memberships, things like that, travel expenses, without getting the benefit of actually being able to, on day one, having an assistant. So in further looking at my budget and also Judge Morgan's budget, I'm coming back and I would like a more parity between the two courts. If we look at what those courts are in our county, we're the same jurisdiction. Judge Morgan and I are working well together. I think we're going to have a great relationship over this next 8 years for sure. But I want to have a lot of more parity between the two courts. I'd like to be able to pay an assistant $42,500. I think that's a reasonable request. I believe Judge Morgan is paying his more. He has a higher budget for that than I do, and I don't fault him for that. But I would like that kind of ability to pay someone. Right now, what I've been doing is I have an assistant from Gayla Miller's office. That's not going to be a thing where I can keep taking one of her clerks out of her department in my court. I need to have an assistant. Also, when you look at the line items, I think I'm paying it. It was my own foolishness to come and ask for those to be removed. Last week, Judge Morgan and I were at a training for judges, General Sessions judges throughout the state, and asking around, I think I was probably the only judge there that was paying for it out of pocket. I'm the only full-time judge that I don't have a travel budget, I don't have a tuition budget, I don't have a dues and membership. In the letter that I wrote to the commission, I actually go through the numbers on the difference between Judge Morgan's budget for these items and mine, and the difference before, obviously, I moved all of it, the line items to that assistant salary, and it was still a huge difference. We're talking maybe a third is what I had before of what Judge Morgan has for those. I think if you want to have two judges with equal jurisdiction, we need to treat, the commission should treat them equally. So that's why I'm here today, but I'd love to answer any questions you might have about what I'm requesting.
Any questions before we get into a vote for Judge Collins? Commissioner Slater.
So currently you do not have an assistant. Is that what you're telling me? Okay. So was there money in the previous budget for an assistant for a judge?
There is. So there is funding for that.
How much is in that line item, if you know right off the top of your head?
I think it's just less than 37,000.
37.
And that was after we moved all the line items. At the time, totaled about.
So, and I read your letter, I appreciate your letter, you have a lot of good information in there, but it almost seems like it would make more sense that we took the money that you requested out of the line items and put that back, because you are stating that you don't have money for dues and membership, you don't have money for travel, you don't have money for office supplies. So can you not hire an assistant for $37,000?
Well, I mean, I think I could. I think the problem is I want to have a paralegal. When you look at the two courts, one court, we have the same jurisdiction. One court has a magistrate spot. That's not mine. I'm not asking for a magistrate, but I would like to have the ability to hire a paralegal. I think that is definitely a reasonable request, given that huge disparity. If you look at Judge Morgan's ability, he's been able to hire an assistant for much higher than 42,000, and also have a magistrate. I just don't have that ability to do. My court, our dockets are larger than I think any court. When you look at Chancery Circuit on a day-to-day basis, I barely made it to the meeting because I was holding court this morning. So that's why I'm asking. I need a paralegal. That's why I'm coming.
And I understand that. My only concern would be that any new elected official is going to have a budget that was already prepared for them, because we do budgets in July. And so if we give you what you're asking for today, are we opening the door for every other new elected official that changes hands to come and say, this isn't enough, I want more, instead of waiting to the new budget cycle?
Right. And I definitely do understand that concern. I would just say, I think we're in a unique spot here. It would be like if you had two road departments. One road department was funded at 70% less than the other road department, but both were required to do the exact same thing. That's how it feels from my perspective, is I'm asked to do the exact same thing, and I've been having court till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, but yet I don't have the same ability to do that. I don't have the same resources. That's why I'm coming back and asking on day one rather than waiting a year.
So you're just wanting all the money put in a salary line item so you can hire a paralegal?
I'm asking for money to be put in that salary line item, and the statement of my line items that I have. And when you look at the line items, I'm looking at tuition and travel. I'm still asking for a fraction of what Judge Morgan has in his salary.
Cindy still has the floor. honey.
I'm finished,
I'm
sorry.
sorry, no.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner
Just a
Alford.
question, Judge.
Commissioner Alford,
I'm sorry.
apologize. Commissioner Winters,
I didn't know you had to say.
Commissioner Winters, and then Commissioner Alford, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the first year in 12-year terms that I've had, that we've had two judges come in at the same time. I don't remember any other time. And both judges were very strong in their campaigns. The public voted for both of you all. I believe in parity. I think parity should be looked at here. Now, how we get to that parity is up to this Finance Committee, the Commission, how we do that. But to have to deal with these types of cuts to do what you're wanting to do, I think you ought to, if you want a paralegal, as the judge elected by this community, you ought to have a paralegal. I think if you need this addition to run your office, I think you need to have that. And I think Judge Morgan should have what he should have in his office. But as much parity as we could do, but obviously, as has been mentioned, the former judge had a basic budget that was turned in that the mayor dealt with. So this is making an adjustment. I can see that. And maybe it's a step by step to get where there is parity. But this community is asking for a judge to be strong on crime. That's what you're working with, strong on crime, correct?
That was one of my campaigns.
The main deal. And the juvenile department is very, very important. I spent a lot of years in there and treasure them. They do a great job. But we need to make sure you can do your job in a way that you can make sure the criminals are put into places they need to be, and those that need rehabilitation get that. So I could see how this could come about, and everybody's doing their job in a proper way. But for you having to give up the basics of your budget, and I know that's because you asked earlier, than probably was appropriate to do. But at that point in time, I'm for, if you need the 42.5, and that's still lower than everybody else, at some point, look at all of that. But I appreciate you coming and presenting this report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Alford, please.
If you had that money and you got all your other stuff for in-state, all this still in your budget, or are we going to have to add more money to your budget to do all this?
We're gonna have to add money to
This
this.
is a request for additional.
What figures are we adding, you know?
Well, if you take out, let me hit a technical here, Mayor. When the lines were zeroed out, obviously the budget request came in with the numbers in there. They were zeroed out. That money basically went into the general fund for all purposes. Or
No,
did it went into his salary line.
Yeah, and if I could,
Please.
because I've already had a smart aleck say, why did you zero all of those items for Judge Collins? I zeroed those items because Judge Collins asked me to, and I moved it to the salary line
That
item.
was the
We
question
didn't
I
take
had.
anything from the budget. But if you look in the budget, it looks like the mayor's proposal did all this. I did it because I was
at my
requested.
request,
Right,
unlawfully.
it was
I'm
at
not
his
saying-
request. That don't reflect that when you look at the document though, but it was at that request, but it wasn't taken away, it was put in the salary line at his request.
I made that clear today, and also in my letter, that it was me, not anyone else.
I just want to make sure that it didn't go back into the fund balance and that it did go into a salary. So we're good on that. That answers your question.
Still no, I think, in looking at the two, it would still be over 40,000 less than Judge Morgan. So I'm not asking the commission for a magistrate spot. I don't think I need to have a magistrate at this time. I think we can cut through the docket. But going what Commissioner Winter said, you know, one of my big campaign pushes was that we need to get cases moving. Even in this first month, I mean, we have cases from 2018, 2017, routinely in this court. And like I said, we've been there till 8 or 9 o'clock because I'm not going to continue cases. So that's why I'm coming in this first month, because I need the help that I'm requesting to get to keep doing.
Commissioner Slater, please.
How many days a week are you holding court?
Full court 5 days a week.
Thank you.
So, Judge Collins, I guess we'll wrap it up before we go to a vote. There was an assistant assigned to this position, and you have every right to make a change there and all that. But that person was not a paralegal.
They were not, no.
So just bear with me. I'm gonna ask the questions that I'm sure everybody's wanting to ask. If that job was able to be performed with the skill sets that that person had, and I apologize, I don't know the legal world very well, but now the paralegal, what does the paralegal do that wasn't able to be done before? I guess I'll try to get a question out to you.
Right. Before, my predecessor wouldn't put down written orders. A lot of things as far as bonding, probation type things. I won't say too much. I think a lot of it was not up to where it should be as far as where the law's at now, 2022. A paralegal would help prepare orders such as that. There's been times where I've had to leave the bench currently to go research an issue, write out an order. That pushes court back. If you had a paralegal, you could say, hey, can you go look up this law, pull these 3 cases for me so I can actually look at it during the
So
lunch
that's the
break.
key point there. So you go from where the previous person wasn't able to perform orders, and I've kind of learned a little bit about what the order thing is. So now a paralegal can do. So you're now adding more functionality to your court.
Yes, it would help me be able to turn around response times a lot faster. Right now, if people put a motion in front of you, you need to have that motion answered. And the old way was, let's review it, take it 3 months down the road and kick this year-old case 3 months to look at this issue. I don't do that anymore. I say, we'll kick it till next week and I'll have it out. But if I had someone that could actually help me work on that, and I have 10 or 15 orders to look at in a week's time, and I'm holding court every day, that would be huge.
So I'm not trying to ask the same question 3 different ways, but I want to make sure only a paralegal, somebody who has that title or that certification or degree, whatever, can do the orders. The person before wasn't able to do orders.
It's just an additional,
I mean-
requirement that gives us the ability to know where to look, what cases to start pulling, what code books to start looking in. That's something that a paralegal has training. That's
Nice.
not there without.
Being a paralegal, that's something you get a certificate or you a degree or what have you. I mean, you are a paralegal, right? Okay. Yeah, please, Commissioner.
Well, we're still dealing with it. I'll just say last week I had a case from 2014 that was still there. The person had been set 27 times or something to that effect. But every day we're having cases that are from 2018, 2019. We're not just talking about driving cases. I'm talking about aggravated assaults, domestic assaults. You know, that victims have come to court, that defendants have come to court. It just keeps getting kicked. That's because we just run out of court time. Like I said, you can ask attorneys, they don't like staying till 8 or 9 at night, but that's what I told the people we would do till we got this fixed. That's what we have been.
Thank you. Anyone? Any other, Mr. Mason, anybody else? So, I don't have a problem with moving the, your line items, membership, travel, tuition, office supplies, and periodicals, back into there. So the budget reflects an increase already from the removal, the zeroing out of that. So right now it's at $36,946. If you wouldn't have zeroed those out, obviously the amount that those add up to would have been less. The question then becomes the $5,400 that goes into the 162 line. Now, we're in the second week, called the first week or second week of October for our pay period. You've gone without an administrative assistant or being no payroll out of 162. There's been what, three pay periods since September 1, and there'll be right. And I looked at the account analysis. It's about per pay period about $1,600 for this line. So in a way, not having an administrative assistant or paralegal, I apologize for the titles, since September 1 to current day, and by the time this gets out of finance into the full commission, you'll probably have another pay period. That pretty much covers the 5,400 right there for this budget. The question then becomes the next budget. So, sorry? Yeah, we have to deal with it at the next budget, so.
I'll say, I have someone in mind, but they'd have to give notice and everything else. They're probably not starting until, I would say, November.
Yeah, so
That would be a full 2
what I'm
months.
saying is you don't necessarily have to move money out of the fund balance to cover the amount that you want. But this finance committee needs to deal with the fact that there's gonna be, in his budget request in March or April next year, the full amount that will have to be dealt with. Just keep that in mind, right? So, what does this committee want to do with respects to this amendment? Pass it all, or just the line items here? And,
Mr. Chairman?
yeah,
So
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we move back what he requested to be moved out, minus the salary, and the salary should be able to take care of itself, with not having someone in that position currently and probably until November the 1st. And then we would deal with that in March when we start looking at new budget requests.
so I have a motion from Commissioner Slater's that we go add the lines back to 162, 320, 355, 356, 435, and 437. Those are the ones that were zeroed out. And let that you'll have enough money in your budget with the 36,946 because you'll go at least four pay periods at about $1,600 a piece to cover. I'm assuming it's going to be an hourly employee, right? So you'll have to come up with a wage rate and all that of what, if they were making 42.5, what that would be. Go ahead and establish that rate, and all you need to cover that for the rest of this budget year, and we'll deal with the 42.5 in budget requests next year. Right, and then the benefits
Chairman.
salaries. And then Commissioner Winters and Mayor Davis.
No, I'm seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
I'm sorry.
apologize. You're set, you're ready to go. Mayor Davis?
Just want to make sure you understand. Are you saying to put back what was moved out? Because that's not the request. You look at 320, it had $250 in it, and he's putting 1,000. Travel had $900 in it, he's putting 1,200.
My recommendation is to put back what was originally
Okay,
there.
so that'll be different numbers than what you just said, though, so you're gonna,
Okay,
can
I don't have
explain
the
additions is basically I looked at Judge Morgan's salary,
yeah,
not salary, but his budget for those items. I looked at mine, and I took 2/3 basically of,
oh,
because I know our next conference is in Memphis. Obviously not a cheap conference. If I was going to go as a judge, I put in the letter why that's important to go. Build a network of resources when you go to that, and you miss that when you don't go to those conferences. Plus, you have to be a judge to continue being a judge. I need to get continuing education, and those are not cheap either. So that's why I'm asking for. It's still just a fraction of what Judge Morgan's side has because of that magistrate spot, but that's the reason.
all right, we have a motion, then you got it clear on the motion, and it's been seconded. Any further discussion, Commissioner Winters?
And the motion that Commissioner Slater made was to go back to the figures that are not on here, right?
Yeah,
I mean, the
I
prior
believe,
figures.
we don't have the budget request that was submitted back in March when I believe that's what your motion is, so, you see right there?
Yeah, I see that's the increase.
There, Mayor pointed out. If we had the budget request, we'll be able to see the difference. Well, that's the only line that's an increase, that you designated as an increase.
I think
320, are they all increases?
They're
We
all
don't
in-
have the budget request.
they're all-
so-
Look at, you can look at the budget amendment request explanation. I've kind of broken it down. If you look at Division 1, which is Judge Morgan's court, for dues and membership, he has 1,500 right now. Before, Judge Randolph's court had 250. That's the difference, what, 6 times difference. If you look at the travel on Judge Morgan's side, it's 1,800 versus 900 for Division 2.
Oh, I see, so, yeah,
Tuition was 800 versus 200, say 200 a year in tuition. The conference I just went to in Chattanooga with Judge Morgan, it was 250 for that one. We have 2 a year, so 2 to 3 a year. And office supplies, 200 for Division 1 versus 100. So really, my request is just for parity between the two. I'm not asking for parity, obviously.
yeah, but it's also true that the money that we sent over to the line item 162 is not being reduced. That was increased because you zeroed out per your request those.
That's correct.
So-
But the money I sent over to the line item was 1,650 from all of those. If you look at the summary, Judge Morgan for all those line items in his budget has 5,400 a year. Judge Randolph had $1,650.
Thank you very much. Any others? Go ahead, Mayor.
it's just making sure you understand. If your motion, I'm not part of the debate here, but your motion is to restore, right? So what you would be doing is 100 and 307, 250 and 320, 900 and 355, 200 and 356, 100 and 435, 100 and 437, for a total of 1650 is Commissioner Slater's motion.
And what's the difference?
Did you say for 437, how much?
37 was
200?
Was it not beforehand?
So basically, what was requested is in your document, Judge Collins, 250 for 320, 900 for 355, 200 for 356, 100 for 435, 200 for 437. Is it? And that's
Yeah,
your,
that was,
The request is, 1,000, 1,200, 800, 200.
What I just read you was the numbers from the budget request. That
So-
predates him.
okay,
a question.
please. And then we're gonna vote.
These numbers are numbers.
So,
The
I'm
budget,
the one who came in June and asked that they move the assistant salary.
Original,
Correct, yeah.
sorry.
What was moved was from his original. This is, I guess, a new request now that I am judge for greater parity between the two. So when you look at it, Judge Randolph had $4,650 for all these line items.
Yeah.
Then, Judge Painter, now Judge Morgan, has 50. Fourth.
Yeah.
1/3.
All right, anything else on this amendment? And Renee, you have what the amendment, or what her motion is?
Her motion is to put back the expenditures that were in the original budget amendment request in those expenditure lines, and that the salary increase he's requesting will be there due to the unspent money from the position not being filled.
And that is a guesstimate, but I'm going by what I saw in the account analysis the other day. But it should be pretty close, and we'll deal with that. And then we'll deal with the budget request next March on your 42.5.
I'll come back at that time and ask for increases in the line items as well for parity.
Thank you I know you're extremely busy. Thank you for being here. Any further discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. This will be on the consent agenda for the next voting session, right? Yeah.
The next budget amendment, since you all did not increase that salary, does not need to be done.
Next budget amendment. Oh, this is for his account?
Yes, this was the benefits that would have went if you had increased the salary.
All right, so we can
Just
disregard this
avoid it.
amendment. All right, moving on to Bradley County Emergency Management Association. I'm sorry, not association, agency. I wish they were association. Decreasing the $55 from his $599, and he's moved it over to $347 pest control. There's a lot of pest control.
We
Well,
got
yeah,
it, they
That's like the
gave
fifth
us,
one.
Keeping them busy.
they gave us an increase, I think last month.
Oh, did it? So everybody who uses pest control has got to up their
Yes.
ante. Okay. We have a motion to accept the amendment from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. Next budget amendments from the Health Department. She is also, now see, she does it the opposite way than everybody else. But it's basically the same thing. She's decreasing or increasing her expenses and decreasing from her $55 for pest control. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion?
Just a question.
Please.
Do we bid this pest control thing out?
We haven't. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Might be time to look at it anyway.
The water all over the place. So they went up on everybody. Anyway, I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. EMS, and you guessed it, pest control, $44 in the same account. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Mason. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. The EMS again, he's increasing revenue, increasing expenses, so it's money coming in. Oh, this is VFIS. Insurance claim. So I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, and there's the check right there, and the description to Mr. Gehring. Next one is from Fire, and for the new members, you're now in a new fund. You're not in 101 anymore, you're in 121. Same account. He's moving $253 for, you guessed it, pest control. I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Bradley County Sheriff's Office. She is decreasing her reserves for restricted public safety, increasing into 718 motor vehicles, monies, revenues, sexual offender registry. Oh, this is the one we get every year. I have a motion to accept the amendment, recognize the money. I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. 409, sale of equipment. Oh, somebody left your department and they purchased their badge. They purchased their weapon, okay. I have a motion to accept the amendment. I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Passes 5-0, and there you see the check. Oh, then it says it didn't. And there's the documentation. That takes us to page 42, Bradley County Sheriff's Office. Miscellaneous refund. Dr. Hare was out of the country when he. Sorry, he has to pay $8.26 because he used his phone outside the country.
I'm sure he's not good enough.
I'll give him the 8.26. All right. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, and there's the check for $8.26. Next minute,
Mylan, the
Yes.
next three are donations.
next three are
The next
donations.
three, budget amendments are donations.
Okay, monies we donated for school safety. Let's take a look at. We Properties, 1,000. And Tri-State. Tri-State gave a donation. Next one is Gipco. And Tarver Distribution. We appreciate their donations. We'll take these up as a package, all three of these amendments, their donations into your school security fund. I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0, and we appreciate those donations. That takes us to the Bradley County Sheriff's Office Drug Fund. Now we're in Fund 122. Here on page 50. $369.10. He's decreasing his expenses, so he's basically going, well, it's two accounts in there. $499 from one account, $499 to another account, $499. I have a motion to accept the amendment. I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0.
And Mylan, the rest of them are services rendered.
All right, so we'll take these up as a package, services rendered and services rendered. Remember, just a quick note on services rendered. If it is a government agency like a school, they don't get charged the motor. Sandra, help me. They don't get charged the vehicle maintenance on that. So that's why you'll see Lake Forest, I believe it was, not the same amount as the others. But if they're like a church or something, then they do pay the vehicle maintenance. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll take that up in a second. All right, we're taking these up as a package, all these services rendered amendments together. I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. That concludes this packet. Mayor, you just sent something else out that we need to take up?
Juvenile Court, Vickytown has an amendment here moving the salary supplement, which is pay for one of the warrant writers that had been paid out of her budget over to your
yeah.
$599 commission line item, so that from here on, the warrant writers will be paid out of one place. This is the remaining amount that's left in her fund, the $9,000.
Very good. So basically, we're moving money from the juvenile account 5420 to county commission line, our county commission account, and the respective numbers there, 599, 201, 217, 299. And this was, well, this doesn't zero out that account. It's just the amount that you earmarked for that service.
This is,
Okay. Okay. All right, do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Alford, I have a second from Commissioner Winters.
are- is,
Commissioner Winters,
is, magistrates, warrant writers, magistrates? What's the deal?
A
Mayor.
magistrate can be a warrant writer,
So there's warrant writers and then there's a magistrate.
right.
And the
Uh,
magistrate does what?
In the past, this particular one had been a supplement to the previous magistrate who was also serving as warrant writer. The current new magistrate's no longer going to do that, so that's why it's getting moved.
Thank you.
any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. It will also be on the consent agenda for the next voting session. That concludes the amendments. We'll go to the, back to the agenda. Just in the interest of time, you see, agenda item A, B, and C. I'm gonna ask, Sheriff, to come up. We'll go to C, then we'll circle back to A and B just to respect his time. He's already been patient enough. Mayor, Sheriff, welcome.
Thank you, Molly. It just has to do with the grant that's passed down from the state. I think we actually got the grant in February, and it came down to us. We were trying to get them to make it a non-reimbursable grant, and they just informed us that it would not. It would have to be reimbursable. The grant is for $200,000, and it covers inmate education. We have had welding certificates awarded. We've had HVAC certificate certification. So our problem is that we don't have any line to go to, any money in that line to do this. Cleveland State and Tennessee Workforce Development has been assisting us, as well as City Fields. We all been working together, but I just believe this is a reimbursable grant from the state that I believe we need to pay attention to, because I think Governor Lee initially was pushing for inmate education, and we have been on board without any monies, but it would certainly be nice to supplement them with some of the welding equipment, work with Cleveland State, whatever we can do. I'm also working with the Curing Place, who's building a place right across from us, maybe to furnish one of their classrooms with equipment. If we could do that out of the grant, it would be nice, because we would have the classroom right across the street. Because my initial thought was they want to extend this grant for 5 years. I think it's 5 years. And Cassandra can tell you more about that, but we need to get on board. They asked me back if we were ready or if we were going to use this grant. And I think I know we're in the middle of the budget year. However, I think we need to entertain it. I've done my best to get them a non-reimbursable grant, but they won't go that route. They told us firmly they couldn't do it. So I just believe we don't have to have $200,000 by any stretch, but we need to have some in that line or a line to supplement this grant so it's reimbursable. And I think they're going to be able to turn it around. Cassandra can tell you more about the grant itself. She's got it.
Sure. Yeah, we did. Thank you.
Programming grant. Like you said, it's $200,000. You've seen a breakdown of the items that we were wanting to purchase. So there was some HVAC equipment, some welding equipment, some computers for a classroom, which right now we're kind of dealing with, inside quad, so it's kind of a small classroom. But the next part of the grant, that we can, be granted. They just wanted to know if they do grant us the grant, if we'll be able to use it, because as of right now, we really haven't been able to do much with this grant, because, $200,000 is a lot. We don't just have a lot, that much money in our budget to be able to use and then be reimbursed. So we do have a chance to get another portion of the grant if we can show them that we, come to an agreement with you all, how we can spend the money up front and then for them to reimburse us.
Very good. So, Mayor, my first question would be is, how the training pay works, where I guess we front the money so that they can have their pay usually at the end of the year. but we don't get reimbursed by the state till like the last day of the budget year or something like that. I'm assuming that's how this is gonna work.
Yeah, before I answer your question though, how many years is it good for?
So this one ends actually in December, but they will work with us on getting some of the money spent. We're not asking for all of it because like you said, Cleveland State has been gracious enough to help us. But if we have the equipment on site, we're not having to transport our inmates to their facility, which we're doing right now because we have none of the equipment. So if we can purchase some of this equipment before December, I do think Cleveland State will obviously still work with us on the instructor, things like that. But the next grant is, I think, either a period of 3 to 5 years will be the next.
The next. How much of this 200 do you think you will get spent in the timeline? I'm just trying to come up with the amount before I answer his question.
My idea is immediately, so I'm not a big amount. My idea is immediately work with Cleveland State if we can help them with any of their equipment they're training inmates with now. And just, so I'm gonna say
Roughly.
30,000.
All right. What I would suggest you do, Mylan, as Finance Committee, whatever the proper revenue line that it would go into, which I don't know if we know that offhand, is amended up 30,000, and then put 30,000 in a line for him to spend it out of. He can go ahead and be spending it, and it'll be up to him then to bring in the revenue that you've done. I just didn't know the amount, so if it's roughly 30,000,
I would say that would give us a good start for this.
we can always
fiscal year.
change it later too.
We're gonna recognize
wanna
more
go crazy.
revenue and then recognize the expense.
Yeah, what you're doing is increasing revenue, the same amount you're increasing expenses. Did that bring up another question, Cassandra, or is that?
You'll also show them, even if it's not the full 200,000, it's still gonna show them that we have worked with you all to come up with an agreement on how the new monies come next year.
And what I suggest is you approve increasing revenue and increasing expense, 30,000. I want Cassandra to send us a line item that she wants it put in,
I'll find a revenue.
and she'll find a revenue line. Follow me? I don't know what to suggest, because it's kind of different kind of spending here, so I don't know what to suggest there. But if you will pass it and approve it, we'll put the numbers to it for your packet then when you actually adopt it, okay? We just don't know offhand those two numbers. Does that make sense?
It does, we don't have anything to approve right now, other than nothing in writing, so to speak. I mean,
Well,
we can do a motion and.
yeah, just approve it, and we'll get the amendment done for you so that it can be in that part of that next packet rather than roll it for another month.
I so move.
Okay.
I move it, you fill it in.
You moved it, the mayor does all the work, right?
We'll get it done. So your motion is to increase,
Yeah.
amend revenues up 30,000, and to increase some line in the sheriff's budget 30,000.
That was my question, is there are gonna be assets of the county, wouldn't it come out of 189?
I don't know the answer if they are assets to the county, if it's at Cleveland State. There's some questionable things there.
Okay,
so-
so, very good. So we're going to increase revenue by 30,000, and we're going to increase an expense, line item to be communicated later on.
I'll have a
And
budget,
then,
we'll get a budget amendment
sausage.
just like this that we'll attach to your consent agenda. If you go ahead and vote on it, we'll get the revenue line and the expense line, and it'll be in your consent agenda packet.
All right. So I'll remind Lori to, not pull that, but just so we, pay attention to that line. I mean, because we'll alter the budget as well by that amount. And the revenue account,
Yeah, I'll find a revenue account for it, and we'll find an expense line to pay it out of.
That would
and
be to figure $30,000.
30,000. And if there's more after the 30,000, obviously you have 170 to go with respect to this grant, then we'll do the same exercise later on.
Yeah,
Is-
don't leave it at that, because there's things to buy out of it. I mean, we can get buy computers for the training, what I'll get with my educational officer, and we'll go over what needs to be done, and then work with Cleveland State as well as work with development and City Fields, because they all been partners to us in all this.
Very good. I have a motion to have from Commissioner Winters to increase the revenue line by 30,000 and the expense line to be communicated later on. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Sheriff. That takes care of item C. And going to our agenda, in the interest of time, I'm gonna ask if we take item B, and I'll get with Lori, the review of the fund balances. That was an education thing for the new members. We'll do that in November. 'Cause we're gonna chat about the American Rescue here in a second. But the fund balances for the different funds, that's really comes into play during budget time, when the percentages that we have to maintain. So we got plenty of time to get that understand. The next thing is the Commissioner offered, you had asked that we start looking at the American Rescue money. It's my understanding that we received the second allotment,
Yes, we have.
so we're good on that. Just open up the floor. I'm just gonna go over this. If anybody has anything, just yell. Remember, we approved the mayor's recommendation to create these, we call them buckets: premium pay, broadband, public water, sewer, COVID-19 response, and affordable housing. And not to be confused with what's coming up on our agenda tonight. That's the mayor's calling, I think, the 7th bucket. And you see in the second column there, the amount that we earmarked from the 21 million. $7.5 million for premium pay, $4 million for broadband, 3.5 for public water, 3 million for sewer, 2 million for COVID-19, and 1 million for affordable housing. That was all done last year sometime. Then you see on the next page, per bucket, kind of what we've done with these. We started off with the premium pay. I think that was the first one. So if we go to premium pay, Lori did a pretty good job on these spreadsheets. Oh, she didn't do a spreadsheet for premium pay? Well, premium pay was the first one. We earmarked 7.5 million, and we only spent 7.1 for the premium pay, but I believe we also used that difference for some other things. The contract with Southeast Tennessee, I believe, I think that's the only thing that we did use that difference from, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Then on broadband expansion, just the other day, we approved the 779,000 with VEC on the matching grant, the 10%. So that leaves us to 3.2. We had a very good discussion on that. Public water, we just approved out of the 3.5 with COA utilities for that from Commissioner Mason brought to us the other day. Sewer, we haven't really spent anything yet, but we earmarked 750,000 for septic repairs, which, by the way, we need to get started on. But I'll get with Chairman Fry on that and start the process on that. COVID-19 response, we earmarked $2 million, and that I think we do have an itemization.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Slater.
what is dependable security and Burris construction for?
The lock box, or whatever you call it, that the trustee had put in, or if they were closed, you could go to a box and pay.
Over at the trustee's office.
So is it listed on here? Because it's trustee box for $10,000 is listed on here. Dependable security, 4725, dependable security, 425, Burris construction, 4,315. So is that double dipped on there?
Yeah. It is. It is.
Okay.
When Lori and I were putting this together, we didn't know what dependable security is in there. So the trustee's drop box, you can draw a line through that, and that will obviously change the balances here. Again, this is just grant, this is abstract. We're not making any decisions off of it. This Commissioner wanted to get a good idea of where we were, so good catch on that. We didn't know what that was. It's in the account analysis report. But we do have a ladder truck. As the mayor told me the other day, that was his estimate. I think you got it almost right by,
You read my mind when I texted you back. That's pretty damn close, isn't it?
yeah, I was
Uh,
like, I mean,
But
19,000, out of $1 million purchase, that'll be 19,000. So the total purchase, I believe, is 1,019,000.
right, and it is here.
Oh,
Oh, good.
It is here, yes.
it,
We'll have a time when you can see it. I hate to say this evening, but possibly this evening, it'll be available for you to see, I think.
where is it gonna be housed, or where's it going?
Right now, it'll be on Inman Street.
Okay. So 100
Eventually, it'll probably go north, but it'll be on Inman Street right now.
Okay, so we have a 100-foot ladder truck now in Bradley County.
Nice truck. And I went along with it. It was justifiable, don't get me wrong, but being able to buy it out of ARP is big. We would never been able to buy that truck probably if it hadn't have been for
Well,
ARP.
we were gonna use like 5 budgets in order to get it purchased.
Yep.
The amount of money we set for equipment, the fire budget, they were willing to give up basically 4 to 5 budgets for this.
Which really wasn't good because we'd start getting behind in what that was there for.
Yeah.
So this way we won't have to do it except possibly one more year and we'll be set then back on track.
That's the best news all day. Then we got a 100-foot ladder truck.
We can't get ambulances, but we do have the fire truck.
Well, next thing here is ambulance 195. It's in the process, I assume. We just talked about dependable securities versus construction, and there's the ladder truck decrease. So that basically gives you an idea of what's left out of the $2 million Commissioner offered, minus the take out the 10,000. Increase the amount available by 10,000, which will take you up to 1,200,000. I'm sorry, 776. So that second six make that a 776 is you basically got $776,000 out of that bucket. You making your correction? All right. And I think that's all we have spent with respects to what we have spent and what we have budgeted to spend with respects to the federal funds. So Commissioner Offer, I'll ask you, is that what you were looking for per your request, to get an idea of?
Synopsis of what we're spending. I guess that my next question is, some of these things were, or are there any plans for future spending on some of these buckets? Like sewer, for example, we got, $3 million budgeted, but we've only $750,000.
And we just earmarked that for septic repairs. We're actually not expanding these sewer
We're not
lines. So
spending
that's a
any
good,
of it.
that's a good. Is there any
How long are
conversation?
we gonna wait to see if anything happens on any of this stuff?
Mayor, are there any conversations with utilities on, they're probably pretty busy with what they're getting approved tonight. But with respects to sewer, any conversations with them using our money?
Ocoy is using to upgrade the plant or practically rebuild the plant. They may have some requests for for sewer money, but other than that, I think it's gonna be basically your septic money. But what you mentioned before, you need to get busy on the criteria for the septic, because that 750 is just a ballpark guess. According to how tight you draw your criteria for the septic will determine what that amount is. I mean, it'll easily be $1 million. If you leave it wide open, it could be a lot bigger than that. So that'll be up to your criteria. Once we know the criteria that you want in place, then we'll come back with and that one's going to be complicated because we're going to be granting that money out. We are going to be granting that money out. That's something we don't usually do. So that criteria is very important. But once that's in place, that figure will change, and then you'll have a more realistic number of what's left. The affordable housing has went over. COVID-19 can easily be done. There's 2 issues coming up that will take care of COVID-19 bucket. And then the water bucket, we will be coming back very shortly with one area is already ready to go, and that's what wasn't funded in that bucket that you're approving tonight. There's 2 more sections of water lines there that we'll bring to you after we get through tonight's stuff, and that'll eat up some of that, but you'll still have some water money left and some sewer money left, I'm confident. Broadband, it's according to how long you wait. If they have a cycle in the spring, probably use another million of that if it's a grant cycle like we did this time. If they don't have a thing and you decide to go 50-50 like was presented to you a few weeks ago, that one would easily be gone. So again, you're back to your sewer bucket and your water bucket, which will have an amount left. The most urgent thing for the commission is to get your priority, for the septic tanks, the criteria.
Yeah, and on that, when you and I were chatting, the state has this already?
Yeah, and we will, Adam left, the state has a grant that we might be able to replicate, and so we're gonna try to get that for you very soon. I'm not
Alright.
sure if he's making headway with it or not, but we'll try to have that. I think that'll be a good starting point. You may wanna make it less restrictive or more restrictive, that'll be up to you, but if we can have that as a starting point, that's what we're trying to get
I
now.
agree, because I don't think we have the expertise to, I know I don't, I mean.
No, we need it to start with, for
yeah,
sure,
but-
but
or-
we'll have that soon. I was just trying to get this 7th bucket tonight behind us first.
Yep, I agree. All right, Commissioner Alford, that gives you an idea of, now, you asked the question, so there's gonna be quote unquote some money left over a little bit. My opinion, and it's just mine, is, I told the mayor this, to me, the federal money is best used when we have to do some things, maintenance usually, that you normally don't, it's not fun to spend money on maintenance or repair things, but you gotta do it, on things like that. All the roof over at the Justice Center, stuff like that.
If
But I mean,
there's 2 things that I would like to, it's not for me, cars for that department and finish the roof. I've not been in a real big hurry. In last year's budget, we had the roof for the annex. If you'll notice in your parking lot, the insulation finally arrived last week. That was bid and done in April. So, but we probably will try to get an updated estimate to finish the roof out there. And then we know next year your 3-year lease ends. So those 2 things we could pay with ARP money if we can get the estimates. It's hard to even get the estimates on, say, a roof because they know they can't get to it till next year. You follow me? So, but that would take care of that bucket. Well, it's more than that bucket. You'd have to move some into that bucket for that to work. But that would be 2 things that you all are going to have to fund in the near future if we can work it out to do it with ARP. And again, that's for the sheriff. That's not for me, but that's 2 biggies you're going to be faced with. And to refresh your memory, we did probably a third of the roof. We might have done a half of the roof and a third of the HVAC. And then your car lease is up. So you've got cars to purchase, roof to finish, and HVAC to finish. And if you move some money from, say, the sewer bucket into the COVID-19 bucket, then we could do those 3, pay for it with ARP money. That's why I don't seem to be concerned about money being left. There's 3 biggies right there. They all happen to be sheriff's department things, but they're things you're going to have to fund. So I think that would be great use of a big ticket item that I don't know how we'd be able to afford it next year. And then another thing that's not taken into consideration is your admin money, which some money, I think basically what was left from the premium pay was put into a line for admin money. So that bucket, in my mind, is gone.
48,000, I believe, is what I saw in there.
Well, that's all that we've paid, but I think we moved the whole
400,000 is
Yeah.
what should be in there.
So basically, that top bucket is gone. What was left, we moved to the admin line.
Right.
If you're looking in your budget. Broadband will happen one way or the other next year. Water and sewer are your 2. And we'll have some to come to you soon on water. And then it'll be how many more water lines you want to do. I mean, the utilities, I don't know how many they'll be willing to do 50-50, but we can do a lot more there. The septic will be how much you approve for the restrictions to
Right.
be. And that basically gets it. It's basically public water and sewer is your two buckets. You work on the septic in your thoughts of how you want it to be done. I'll get the state to go by. But the reason I'm saying things you want to do, are you wanting to match it with the property owner 50-50? You wanting it to be a 60-40, an 80-20 with the property owner? What's the criteria that they have had to have failed septic tanks and they've attempted to fix them, or they just called me up and said, hey, I got a failed septic tank, come and fix it, and I'll pay half, you pay half. That criteria before that one gets to be big in the news needs to be addressed, because that'll open up a can of worms if we're not careful.
Chris Alford.
Well, just my opinion on a lot of these septic tanks, it's not the fact that the septic tank's gone bad, it's the fact that when they were built, they didn't put enough fill lines in. And it doesn't matter how much money you put into a septic tank, if it doesn't have enough fill lines, you can't fix it. So I think that's gonna be a very limited thing. I think whoever, and my next question, I guess, is what committees are gonna take up this criteria for sewer?
And that would be a question for Chairman Cry to designate that responsibility. But, because I chatted, with the mayor, we need to get on this. Back in, spring, we said around September, we would start this process. My idea was that that company that did the study, I forget the CTI, whatever it was, they actually offered to be the vendor to help with the criteria and all that. And the mayor said, well, the state has some criteria that we could look at, which if they have it, then we can go with that. But with respects to what committee is going to approve and make a recommendation to the full commission on the criteria, that's up to Chairman Cry.
And then, my concern is it's a grant from us. If it's a Cleveland Utilities grant, I deal with a entity, or Ocoee Utility, an entity, but you're gonna set criteria for possibly 500 individuals. Who's gonna make sure that all the stuff is being done like it's, that one, if you think about it seriously, is gonna get really complicated, because we're granting to individuals. Now, the development district, I think, will be able to use somewhat. After you get the criteria, what I'll do then is take that criteria to the development district and say, can you do this like a grant where you, and
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Can they handle the individuals?
I think they will. I don't want to speak for them at this point until we have the criteria. But, and I don't know the cost, because that's going to be different than dealing with a utility. Again, it's dealing with maybe 500 people, individual people, and somebody's got to go check to make sure it was done. They've got to make sure that the cost of that septic at this house wasn't 1,000, and at this one it was 3,000. You know what I'm saying? But I'm hoping that they can and will.
Yeah.
We just got to get some things done before I really even ask them about it.
I agree that it's a large task and a lot of back office, a lot of work, but for those that it helps, I think it's a good thing. If they meet the criteria, if they did try their best and the field lines and all that kind of stuff, you get $21 million and you can fix some of these septics. I don't think we can fix all of them, but whatever we can do with the 750, let's try to do the best we can. So right now, the next step, Mayor, is you're going to bring us what the state does with respects to their criteria. All right. I think on the agenda, where are we at? Oops, sorry. I'm going to move item B to next month. That's it for the agenda. Other business? Anybody have anything? Nothing? All right. Then our next meeting will be, where's November the 7th. There's no further business. We are adjourned. Thank you so much.